Hey, so you probably got your Minilogue out and you're looking to make some Synthwave style patches with it. Now I thought I would go through the process of how I make a type of patch for different things like your bass lines, your keys, your leads, your pads and some other texture based synth stuff. So I thought let's get straight into making those presets. So I've got the Minilogue in front of me and I'm going to start by making the bass patch. Now usually for Synthwave they're quite simple, just a mixture of a simple oscillator with the filter and a bit of envelope stuff to control the filter and making a short plucky sound. So we'll start with a saw wave. I'm just going to initialize. So we've got now I'm going to drop it down. So we're probably going to work in this sort of area here. Next I'm going to move on to the filter, so I'm just going to put a half or 12 o'clock, maybe give it a bit of resonance for now. And then we're going to use the second envelope to control the cutoff, so oops, bump that. Probably about there. Now I'm going to remove all the release, sustain, and we're just making this an AD envelope for now. Now another term you might have heard is ARP or arpeggio, and pretty much all this does is any notes that are pushed down, it's going to play them in sequence. So if I just hit this key, yeah, now if we add extra keys, and there's various ways of controlling the ARP, so I'm just testing now to see how it sounds in the song. And yeah, I think that's pretty good for now. I thought I would take a bit extra time to go about how I'm going to actually control it in the song. So usually when I've got a bass patch like this going, so I'm just going to latch it. Usually I muck around with the filter, and then I can augment the delay. So they're the main two. I could also add a bit of a chorus to this one, or we can add some of the other ones, so like a flanger, and we make it really low, so it's changing the dynamic of it across the song, so it's going a bit more variance. That's not gets boring real quick. I might just turn that off. A little bit of delay. It's probably about there. Cool, so that's our bass patch, which I'm going to write right now. Another patch that you probably heard of is keys. Now the way I treat keys is it's sort of like the polyphonic version of a lead, so it's usually I make it a bit softer so it drops down the back when the lead's going nuts, but it allows me to play polyphonic chords or use them for ARPs and all that sort of stuff. So I'm going to set up a basic Juno patch. Now if you see my tutorial Will It Juno, I go through and explain how to set up this control panel, sort of like how Juno would work, and then we can create patches like that. So definitely check that one out if you want to learn about that. But I'm just going to create a bass square, and then we're going to create a saw. I'm just going to set the mixer so we only work with these two oscillators. So we've got probably there. Next I'm going to have the filter at 12 o'clock because we're going to deal with the EG and amp EG again. So I'm going to actually give this a little bit more of an extended EG. Could make it have a tiny bit of attack. So if we want to make it more plucky, you just give it more attack. But I sort of like that sort of starting roll, bit softer. And then for the attack, I usually have sustain at half and then make it get there pretty quickly with the decay. Probably give it a bit more. Now give it a bit of release so I don't have to hold the key down. So yeah, and then what I might add is a bit of vibrato with the pitch here. Bit too much. Want it pretty subtle. Now if we test out with the arpeggiator, so I'm just going to put it at the BPM of my song. We could also go. So the way I usually muck around with that sound is same thing with the bass. I usually play with the cutoff, but instead of the decay I usually change the reverb, so I'll just get a thing going. So yeah, it gives me a bit of playing when I'm going through an arpeggio, so it doesn't feel like it's getting boring. I also muck around with the volume, so like I make a fade in and all that. And some of the effects that we could use with this as well, I'm just going to put that back there. There we go. We could add some delay to this one. Probably not too much because you do want it to sit in the background and not get muddy. Give it ping pong. Cool. And then we can go through and add like a chorus as well. Be very Juno. So yeah, that's how we can sort of fiddle with that sound while it's playing. And I'm just going to write that one as well. Now, this is sort of pushing the Minilogue a bit, but back in the 80s we did have the DX7, which was an FM synthesizer, so that's all based in frequency modulation. Now we can sort of pseudo muck around with that by either we can do cross mod with 2 triangle waves, or we could use the multi-engine and use the sine waves. So I'm just going to find a new patch. Cool. And then I'm just going to go cool. And we'll turn off the mixer except for the multi-engine. Cool. So now we're in the multi-engine. So it's just a basic sine wave. But we can use this shape to actually fold the waveforms in different ways. So we've got a couple of different ways of mucking around here. So I'm just going to stick to sine 1. And then what I'm thinking is turning this into a key sort of sound as well. So just probably go and leave it so it's got a bit of bite. This always reminds me of like the old Super Mario games. And then we're going to focus on changing that shape. So we can use the LFO. We'll just make it a 1 shot. Drop the rate and then set it to a saw so it's a quick ramp down. So what I just did there was augment the pitch coming into the sound, so it's ramping up into the pitch, which sort of I feel it makes like a whimsical thing. I use that in chiptunes a lot to do sort of pitch shifts up and down before the actual note. And then I'm just going to give it a bit of a same envelope as before with the other key. You probably notice as well, every time you hit a key, this will trigger as well, so just be careful of that. However, this is pretty useful. Like, we can do same things like controlling the envelope. We can add a filter, which sort of changes. So yeah, we've got access to that. We can change the envelope the same way, so controlling how much release there is, same with decay, and then yeah, we can fiddle around with here, so it's like so yeah, just creating all that variance as we go through the track. Next, I want to focus on making a lead patch. So usually how I treat these is monophonic, really loud, powerful sounds that push through the mix. So I use them for my melodies. So I might go with some sort of super saw. So what I might do first off is actually turn it into duo, so it gives us 2 notes to work with instead of the 4. I'm going to set up a super saw patch, so I'm just going to add that. Oh, yeah, maybe add the 3rd oscillator, see how that goes. So we're just going to put that on a saw as well. Cool. We're going to probably set the filter not all the way down because we want it quite bright, but we will have it so it's slowly yeah, and then could add some LFO stuff. We could add some like chorus and stuff like that. I might leave it there just for, I could augment this as I'm going. So you probably notice in some of the other songs I'll actually turn on elements and turn off elements as I'm playing. So I'm just going to leave that one right there. Now I wanted to go over pads with this thing. So we do have 4 voices that we can work with. So we can do some nice 7 chords and stuff like that. But I'm going to create like a very evolving oscillator, some filter stuff, a really open envelope so we can have like massively long sounds and some of the EG, and then we'll look at how we can control it all. So first of all, I'm going to probably do a mix. Probably add some filter, and then we'll really open up this envelope, so a lot of attack, decay and release. So we'll see how that sounds. Probably a bit too much release. Cool, and now I'm going to use the EG, or actually, yeah, we'll use the EG for cutoff. So I want it to sort of ramp up into the sound, adding the cutoff. nice. We could, thinking add some shape changes, so we'll just add a little bit, see how it sounds. So what I'm trying to do here is add a lot of different characters, so when the sound's evolving and going along in the envelope, it's changing what's happening, what's the sound like. So it's like the LFO is sort of combating with the cutoff, which is changing what's happening with the shape. And yeah, so it's all a bit of a experience going through it. So cool. And then ways we can do that, because you probably notice when I'm playing the chords and then I'll jump to a second chord, it cuts off the first lot. So what we can do for that is we're going to add some delay, and quite a bit. Usually stick with tape because I like the sound of it. So we don't have that cut anymore. And then when I'm actually playing this live, I'm usually tweaking that as I would for the keys when I was tweaking the release. So I can control all that sort of stuff. Now I'm just going to save this one and we'll move on to the final patch. So the last part of this is I wanted to talk about using the synth as sort of like effects for so creating fills and all that. So one of the ways I usually like creating a fill is having a noise sweep into the next section. So I'm just going to build that one. So similar to how we set up the pad, we're just going to focus on the noise oscillator. So we'll just get that one set up. Might use the decimate for that one. And then what I want to do is sort of create brown noise, which is just a filtered white noise, and then I use the EG to sweep into the white noise. So we'll just, yeah, probably give it a bit more. And then what we want is to use that same sort of pad amplifier, so we can have a really long build up, and then when we release it sort of fades into the next section like that. And then, yeah, the way I use this is I usually have it set up and wait for the part to go along and then manually put it in, shift it around till it fits right, and then, yeah, so not much tweaking of the panel with the effects, but yeah, it's still interesting to create different sort of noises, as like you could have like a really harsh LFO on some of the oscillators and creating like sirens and that coming in and out. So yeah, see what you can do with the effects side of this for your music. So I've got the DAW ready to go. So what I've done is set up in real time. So when I hit click to record, it's actually going through in real time. So I can twist all the knobs and off we go. And I've done a bit of tricky stuff with the bass line. I've got sidechain compression on, so I'm also recording the drums as well. And then, yeah, so once I hit start, I'll do the tweaks and then run through, do that track, and then continue through doing each of those tracks until all the parts are done. And then I'm going to move it over to Reaper and then finish off the track. So here we go. I hope you found that interesting. Now, I'm just going to do a bit of extra work here to do a bit of live play on the Minilogue for the video that I release alongside this, so you'll find it about here. And yeah, it's been quite a bit of fun now. I am going to put these patches up on Gumroad, so you'll find them in the link below, and yeah, they'll probably be about 50, so yeah, a lot of fun there to muck around and see what sort of synthwavey stuff you can make, or see how else you could use them. So yeah, this has been a really interesting video for me, seeing how we can use the Minilogue for a type of music. So if you have any style of music that you want me to cover, please feel free to leave them in the comments below, or if you want to have a chat about the Minilogue, more than happy to do that as well. So yeah, I'll keep mucking around here and I'll see you next time.